Just make sure that they go live from here. All right, so the format will be in such a way that every individual will be allowed 3 minutes to introduce themselves. And the way we're doing that, just to keep them on their toes, we're going to be picking papers. So there is no order, no alphabetical order. And I have the Superman right here. He's going to help me pick the number, pick the name, and that is the process we're going to follow. So everyone will have 3 minutes. You can take 3 minutes, but no more than 3 minutes. If you want to take 30 seconds, it's up to you. Bismillah. After everybody's done, we're going to engage into questions. We will have 3 ways to ask the questions. We did submit a Google form a few days ago, and we have received a few questions from there. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to go over all those questions first. And if a question is intended for the entire nominee panel, I'll just throw the question out there, and it'll be up to you, whoever wants to take it. And if you feel like you don't want to answer the questions, I won't put a gun on your head. Trust me on that. If somebody wants to answer the question, you will have 1 minute to answer that question. And if somebody wants to do a rebuttal or whatever, you have another minute for that. So inshallah. But you can't go back another minute saying, okay, I said this, I want to do that again. No, just 1 minute, inshallah. And then once the online questions are done, then we will be, we will be passing around the cards. Please write legibly so we can read it, inshallah. And we will take 2 questions from that. And then after that, we'll pass the mic around. 1 question from the brothers and 1 question from the sister, and we'll do it all over again, inshallah, as much as the time allows. So only 2 rules for the questions. Please make sure that the questions are not targeted to an individual or a group of person personally. You can ask about policies, their concepts, how they're going to run, such and such. That is all good, but nothing related to their personal matters. That is off limits. Number 2, don't use foul language. I'm pretty sure nobody will, but sometimes the sentiments get the better of us. So inshallah, just keep that in mind. So without further ado, I would like to ask Brother Umar to pick a name. All right, Bismillah. Okay, see who the lucky person is. The Shafi Sayyid. Bismillah. Let's kick us off. Right. Okay, where is the on button here? What's that? Okay, where's the power button? Okay, I'm technically challenged. That one? Which one is it? All right. Bismillah. All right. I'm going to give you 3 minutes. Hold on. All right. All right, Bismillah. Good to go.
Auzu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Shafi Sayyed, and I work as a technology architect at Accenture. And I have been working with Accenture for about 7 years now. Before that, I was with IBM. And I moved to Valley Ranch community at 2.5 years ago. And I live in Campion Hollows with my wife and three daughters. And that's about it.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Well, short start. All right. Let's do the next one. You got the toughest job, man. All right. That is. All right, Mr. Accountant, Hassan Sheikh. All set?
Yeah.
All right.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Hassan Sheikh. I moved to this community about 4 years ago with my wife Asma, and shortly after we moved, we had our first child, Binyamin. As time went on, I became more involved in the community. I joined the programs committee. I started volunteering during Ramadan. I was given the opportunity to lead the programs committee for the last 2 years. And alhamdulillah, it's been a great experience. We've really been able to enhance our old recurring events. And in addition to that, we've made sure that we add new unique events, which are diverse for our community. And in keeping that in mind, we made a conscious effort to make sure that all our events are self-sustainable. Alhamdulillah, we've been able to accomplish that over the last 2 years, all programs committee events have been independent of any budgets or any fundings.
People can't hear you.
And it's kind of funny, I've been reached out by folks from neighboring masajid, asking for tips and tricks on how they can, improve their events, which, speaks volumes of what Programs Committee has been able to, accomplish in the last 2 years. Apart from Programs Committee, I work for Deloitte as a senior tax manager. I'm a licensed CPA and a CGMA. I've been in the public accounting industry for more than 10 years. My expertise specifically is, providing strategic tax advisory and compliance services to large private equity clients.
Here's our first setback.
Lastly, I just want to share my vision, my goals for the next 2 years. Firstly, I want to emulate the success that we've had on Programs Committee and, kind of extend that to other community events, across the organization. Secondly, I want to take the community's vision in regards to the construction project, move it forward, put strong checks and balances in play, make sure that, finish the project as soon as possible, inshallah. And lastly, most importantly, similar to what we've done with Programs Committee, I want to make sure that our masjid operations are self-sustainable. That would mean, putting budgets in play, monitoring those budgets closely, making sure that we have diverse revenue streams, and cutting any unnecessary costs to make sure that, before we move into the bigger facility, that we've been able to accomplish this. It's very crucial for us to accomplish this, in the next 2 years, inshallah. And I believe, with the strong strategies and processes in play, and, with the support of the community, we should be able to accomplish that, inshallah.
Jazakallah khair. All right, Superman, let's go one more time. Pick one up. I'm just Saeed.
A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Assalamu alaikum. I'm Amjad Saeed. My wife Sonia here. Alhamdulillah, we're blessed with 2 kids. My son Mohid, who is 17, and my daughter Nawal, who is 14. We moved into Valley Ranch area right around 2005. So honestly, this has been one of the best decisions that we made. We've been in the community for the past 12 years. And been involved with the Valley Ranch Masjid since then, either in volunteering in operations, in community events, in AV team, in security, and especially during the event. So anything related to food, prep, and distribution, I usually was there along with my team as well. So why I want to be part of the board. So honestly, I've been asked multiple times by people, and it's hard for me to tell them that I'm not part of the board. So this is, I guess, in a long time coming for me. I think Valley Ranch is a small community, and we need to keep the brotherhood, the cohesion within the community. And I think being part of the community since the start, I can help in that. Professionally, I am a data geek. Currently, I'm at Greyhound, running their data analytics team responsible for the enterprise data architecture. Previously, I've spent about 10 years at Sabre, in multiple roles. Before that, a couple of years at US Customs running their compliance data warehouse, and sometime in CRM and ERP integrations as well. Long time Texas resident. I went to school in San Antonio back in, can't even remember now, 1997. So been part of the local communities since then, and I think just been part of the Valley Ranch community here, and I think I can help be part of the community further now in the board role. Thank you.
Jazakallah khair. All right. One more. Mr. Sahar Ayat. There's some selective clapping going on, really.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. I hope most of you or all of you know me. I'm Sahar Ayad. I've served for the last 2 years, almost 2 years, on the board of directors. Excuse me, as the secretary. It's been my honor to attempt to bring communication to a different level at VRIC. I think, if you're going to be a successful family, as we are in this masjid, we need to all communicate with each other. Everyone's voice is just as important as the other. So, alhamdulillah, we've been able to bridge some gaps with communication. Inshallah, I'd like to continue to serve in that way to bring it even to another level. Also, I believe in getting new blood, fresh blood. However, I would like to serve on this board also just another 2 years, and then I'll resign, I promise, I'll retire. But I would like to give some continuity because I don't want any lapses in the progress that we've made. I'm very proud to have served with this board. I think we've made significant progress. Alhamdulillah, we were a wonderful team, and I just don't want any regression. So inshallah, we thought we'd be giving this meet and greet in the new masjid, but Allah knows best, and inshallah this was all for the best, and we will get there very soon, inshallah, and I would love to be a part of it, and happy to serve. Jazakallah khair.
Jazakallah khair. All right. It's getting tough, right? Brother Abdul Samad Khalilullah. Yeah. What's that for? You haven't even done anything yet. All right, Bismillah.
I don't do anything, I know that.
All right, Islam starts now.
Bismillah min ash-shaytan rajim. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Abdul Samad, and I'm currently serving as a VRIC board. I have been married to Sanobar Khalilullah with 2 beautiful daughters, Khadija and Nashra. I've been an active member of VRIC for past 7 years. It is my honor and privilege to be standing here before all of you once again 2 years later. 2 years ago, when you voted for me to serve a masjid by working on the board, I was a bit nervous about the responsibility, but also excited about the opportunity to serve our community. Alhamdulillah, in these 2 years, we have been faced multiple decisions and changes as we went through some ups and downs. But through it all, our community held strong and worked together, strengthening our bond as an ummah. When I came in as BOD member, I began to learn many things from all of you. There were wonderful experiences, challenges, and achievements. Some of these include furthering the goals of our programs to bring the community together, to continue with the vision of VRIC, which is to keep giving more social activities, religious activities, activities for kids, adults, and sisters, brothers, everyone. As a board liaison for the Quran committee, I was able to increase the revenue and quality of the Hifz program and part-time school. Alhamdulillah, I was blessed to work as a Ramadan lead for the last 2 years, which has always been my passion. I had a great team, Amjad Bhai, and all these guys sitting behind, mashallah. As a lead, my role was to manage the overall budget and all the leads for the different teams, such as logistic, food, setup, security, daycare, Taraweeh, and volunteers with all given tasks. Alhamdulillah, amidst all these successes, we had some challenges as well. And these are good because it gave an opportunity to learn these challenges. It is now to look forward for next 2 years. And I'm standing before you to ask for your support in continuing to serve our community. I wish to continuously increase the amount of programs we have at VRIC due to their huge amount of success in DFW Metroplex. And in addition to this, the next 2 years are very crucial for our masjid, for new masjid basically, building our new masjid. And to successfully complete this ventures, we do need some continuity from the previous board. Keeping these goals in my mind, once again, before you end, requesting your support. I hope that inshallah I'm able to do justice to the responsibility that you have given me before and in future inshallah. Jazakallah khair.
Jazakallah khair. Brother Shakil Khan, if you could come up, please. Jazakallah khair.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Nahmaduhu wa nusalli ala rasulihil kareem. My name is Shakil Khan. My qualification is I am PhD. I did the PhD when I am 32 years old. I am by profession, I am a veterinarian. I am doing the veterinary practice. I moved in this community in 2010. In 2010, when I came here, the community was very small, but with the time, the community is increasing. Alhamdulillah, the growth of the community is very healthy, and day by day, community is increasing. Now the next question, why I am joining this electoral process. The first thing is, being a community member, it is obligation on every person. Every person should participate to the mosque affairs as much as is possible. The first thing is, it is obligation on a member. Then second thing is, when the community is increasing, we have to achieve the mission of the VRIC. According to the constitution, VRIC have mission. In the mission it is written there, VRIC have to provide spiritual, educational, and social activities for the community. We have to try to increase these three factors here. Spiritual, and also we have to increase educational, and also we have to increase the social activities in the community. So inshallah we will try to fulfill, and also we have to try to fulfill the dream of the construction of the new mosque. Already that project is very much delayed. For 3-4 years have passed. Now the time is we have to fulfill that. For that, we really need, whole community should do a good effort for that so that we can achieve that target. Thank you very much.
Jazakallah khair. All right, big man, come on. There we go. Sister Zeba Khan. Sister is definitely awake.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. My name is Zeba Khan. My husband and I have been part of VRIC community since summer of 2015, and that's why I'm in Dallas. But why I'm in front of you right now is because we have Muslims in this community who don't walk, but they do stand for prayer. And we have Muslims who cannot hear, but they come to listen to the khutbah. There are Muslims in this community who come for the support, and the support is not there for them yet. For our brothers and sisters who are blind, who are deaf, who have cognitive impairment or physical challenges, we have a long way to go, and this is my passion. MashaAllah, VRIC is an outlier. It's an awesome place, and inshallah it will stay an awesome place. We are unusually active, unusually diverse, and unusually forward-thinking in our programming, mashallah. But not all of the people who want to attend the programs can. Our Jummah is a great example of this. The auntie that I sat next to yesterday is deaf. So we had this beautiful khutbah about Palestine and Al-Aqsa and the Holy Land, and she could not understand a single word. And I know enough sign language to say, how are you? Are you okay? She said, I'm deaf. I won't complain to Allah, but I wish I knew what he was saying. This is our responsibility. And it's wonderful that we have so many programs, but they're not accessible to so many of us. Our people, our parents, our sons, our daughters, our neighbors are missing out on our community. And that's why I'm here. Pardon me as I turn the page. Now, there are hundreds of Muslims in Dallas alone that are deaf. ICI at one point did offer ASL interpretation for its khutbahs. They do not anymore. There is no masjid in Dallas that a deaf Muslim can come to and understand the khutbah at. There is a hole in our community that needs fixing, and I would like to serve and fix that. Now, I'm here because my mother taught me two things. Always leave them better than you find them, and if you can't find it, make it. When we lived in Dubai, and I had a son with autism, and we had too few services available, my husband and I made a company. It operated for 4.5 years. We provided at-cost therapy for children. We served over 50 families. We had a staff of 12. I'm accustomed to managing people and things. In 2015, I was awarded by the International Gulf Organization, GCC, for being a social change maker. I am currently a writer from Muslim Matters. I'm a speaker at TDC this year, and I am an advocate for disability awareness. This is what I want to bring to our community. We have, mashallah, experts in many, many fields and people passionate about many things, but this is lacking. And VRIC can go from being an outlier to the standard in inclusive communities. There's a lot of work to be done, and we have the opportunity to take that honor before someone else does from us. Jazakallah khair.
Thank you. All right, 3 more to go. Actually 4. Oh, there we go. Cheating, okay? Our brother Mustafa Paracha.
30 seconds. Assalamu alaikum. My name is Mustafa Paracha. I moved Dallas like 2.5 years ago from New York. And I was in New York for about 20 years ago. I lived in New York in 20 years. I actually work in IT for about 17 years. And I've been volunteering in different areas in the masjid. I'm in security. I worked in the Musalla team. I volunteer in all different various. That's about it. I think I can say anything. Thank you.
Jazakallah khair. Keeping it short. All right, man. 3 more to go. You got to only pick 2 ice. Brother Ubaid Zafar.
Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. First of all, I've been asked by my wife to apologize for not looking like my profile picture. You have to understand that the EC sent us a picture of Ben Affleck and said, we'd like headshots like this. So, Jazakallah khair, these guys are doing an amazing job. I know some of their emails have been coming in at 2:30 in the morning. So, about me, my name is Ubaid Zafar. I moved to this community about 3 years ago. I actually have been coming to Dallas for the last 11 years because my wife is from Dallas. She's from the Arlington community, the Center Masjid. And I found out that Farooq actually attended my wedding. I don't know where Farooq is. So he was at my wedding 11 years ago, mashallah. And so I've actually been coming here for as long as, we're talking to Izaz Bhai about when it used to have a little sign that said it's a ICI Musalla. And there was basically in Isha, there used to be one row. But alhamdulillah, we were blessed to have the opportunity to move here 3 years ago. And it's been an amazing experience. As far as VRIC itself, I've been volunteering as part of the Ramadan setup team. And then I work with Farouk and Shaukat and Sister Zaina on the VRIC Outreach Committee. We've been doing that for the last few months as well. So alhamdulillah, it's been an amazing experience doing that as well. Professionally, I'm a director of development at Oracle. I manage global development teams. I also teach at a university as an adjunct faculty. I teach MIS classes. And when I was in Minnesota, we had I was blessed to be a founding member and serving on a board of an organization that provided community development, social outreach programs. I did that for 10 plus years, alhamdulillah. It was an interesting situation where we weren't part of a masjid, but we worked with all the masajid in the community. So alhamdulillah, that was a great experience doing that as well. As far as the BOD is concerned, I mentioned in my write-up that I think for the most part, this community is what it is. It's an amazing opportunity to be here, to be able to take the benefits of being in this community with the shuyukh that we have, with the people that we have. And I don't really have any massive agenda of change. I'd want to continue what's going on, things that are good, serve the vision and mission of VRIC. In the short term, the construction of the masjid, we were done with the provisional vote. I mean, I think we've got alignment of the community and the people that we want to build out this masjid, inshallah. And I feel like there has been a little bit of a division in the community, and I'd like to be able to spend my time working with people, inshallah, to try and get everyone aligned and on board to make sure we are successful in that project. Jazakallah khair. We good?
Yeah, good. Jazakallah khair. On behalf of the Election Commission, we'd like to thank you, Brother Robert, for not looking like your picture. It would be very difficult to recognize you. Brother Shaukat Sayyed.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Shaukat Sayyed. I moved here in 2014, and my first impression of this area was it was very welcoming. When I first got here, I went to go pray Isha Salah, and the Imam asked if there was anyone that was new in this area to raise their hands. For me, this was a shocker because I've never seen anything like that. So my first impression was it was a very welcoming. And it felt like a second home to me. For VRIC, that's what I want. I want VRIC to feel like a second home to all of us. I want the youth to want to come to the masjid, not be forced to come here. I've also been coaching youth basketball, and that's given me an opportunity to teach the youth how to work as a team rather than work by themselves to solve a goal. And in basketball, the goal is to win a basketball game. I've also been involved with the Great Days of Service, which is a annual event that happens where we go around and we help and we fix up certain homes. We fix up low income family homes. So I was a part of that also, and I was excited to see that we were actually part of that. The youth and the adults, they were part of that, and they were part of that with the Christian churches there, and we all worked as one whole team to fix those homes. Now, the reason why we are all here, the folks that are on this board, is we are trying to work towards a certain goal. And we, inshallah, will try to work towards this goal as a team. I work for USDA as a contracting officer, where I handle large-scale construction architect and engineering services type contracts. Now, we all know that right now we're facing a lot of problems right now with the new construction. But there's also, with those problems comes there are a lot of opportunities also, and I inshallah want to be involved in those opportunities and to inshallah to help to give back, because this community has given back to me so much. Jazakallah khair.
Jazakallah khair. And now we don't have to do the paper draw, right? You're the last person. All right, Brother Tahir, take us to the end line. Bismillah.
Assalamu alaikum. I think we should do the paper thing anyway. I don't believe my name was in there. No, Jazakallah khair, I appreciate that. You might have heard my voice before. I'm the guy at the barbecues that's always yelling at people. I apologize for that. If one of your cars is parked in the wrong place and I said, move it now, you know, I didn't mean that really. But alhamdulillah, I also came to the community a few years ago. I've been blessed with my wife, Huma, who's also on the programs committee, Saliha, my daughter, who's on the YM Girls Committee, and the twins, who are also here all the time. So basically, this is my family place. Oh, and I forgot to mention my parents. My father, who's sitting right there, alhamdulillah, he's here all the time. So this masjid is like our home, and there's really not a whole lot more to say than that, to be honest with you. I'm only here because I want to make it better. I've seen divisions in ideas and stuff like that. I'd like to hear people out. I'd like to bring those ideas, and I'd like to build compromises and bridges with people to make sure that everybody feels like this is their home the same way I do. From a volunteer standpoint, I do AV work. You probably see me running around all the time, trying to make sure things are working, batteries aren't dying, stuff like that. But alhamdulillah, you know, as much as I can contribute, I'm happy to do that. Professionally, I work at Goldman Sachs, been there forever. I'm a developer by trade. I'm a technology guy, sort of, you know, in and out. I just love the stuff. And whatever I can do to bring that to the masjid, alhamdulillah, I'm happy to do that. So that's about all I have to say. Jazakallah to all of you for being here, and I appreciate being last. Assalamu alaikum.
Jazakallah khair. That's why they say last but not the least. All right, we're going to be passing around some cards for you guys to write down questions, inshallah, and we'll take the questions just about now. Let me pull up my questions details. Ready? All right, so the very first question that we got from the online audience is, it's for the entire panel, and anybody who would like to take that question, be my guest. All right, so if elected, how will the new board members address the issue of lack of a designated person leading majority of the daily Fard Salah? Let me read that one more time. If elected, how will the new board members address the issue of lack of a designated person leading majority of the daily Fard Salah? All right, anybody would like to go tackle that question? All right, you have it over there. Sister Zeba would like to answer that question.
Is this on? There we go. Mashallah, we have two very credible imams. We also have a full-time Hifz program. We have a very, very large community. And I know that our imams are often busy doing amazing social work and protests and taking care of the community and more than that respect. It would be very simple to make a schedule and a sign-up sheet. Mashallah, there are a lot of really amazing, knowledgeable people in this community. We should be okay, inshallah.
Okay, anybody else like to take a shot at that? Brother Shafi will take that. Okay. Just press it a little bit until the green light comes. There you go.
Testing 1, 2.
All right. Tires at it, even now.
All right, to add to what Sister Zeba said, I think
keep it close to your mouth.
So what I was planning to do is to have a group of volunteers, Hufaz, who can come up with a schedule and allocate their times. Can you hear? Now?
Yeah. That's
now? Okay. So I was planning to have a board, a small group of volunteers, Hufaz, who can lead the daily salah in case our imams are not available, because they are pretty much busy because they are so renowned scholars across North America. They are so wanted. Everybody wants to invite them. So I think that's one thing that I would like to put in place, where we can have a group of volunteers who can help with that.
All right. Jazakallah khair. Everyone can actually take that shot. I mean, you guys each have 1 minute if you want to take that question.
Bismillah. I think it's super important to know that somebody is going to be here to lead the salah, every single salah. It's not like let me go find somebody. Just I think the question is very, very valid. That being said, like everybody else, I love praying behind the shuyukh and would like to know, when I can find them here, and maybe having that, sort of knowledge in advance would be great. But all those times that they're not here, I think we can make sure that there is somebody. So simply planning, I think, would help that situation, so that we're not searching around for somebody to lead the salah.
All right, Jazakallah khair. Anybody else want to take that question? Ubaid? All right, I want to take that.
I just want.
Get really close to it, please. Don't need it.
I just wanted to mention that I lived in a community for the last 7 years before I moved here that did not have a dedicated imam in the masjid. And alhamdulillah, between the community, we always figured it out, whether it was a matter of a schedule or there were a couple of designated people. And like Tahir mentioned, the question is valid. I think people want to have the ease of coming in. The iqama is said, and people don't have to look around. It's understood this person is leading salah. But at the same time, like I said, my own experience, I've been in a community where we've made it work. There actually was no employee that was dedicated that job. And for 7 years, alhamdulillah, never had an issue.
All right, Jazakallah khair. All right, shall we move on? Okay. Question number 2. As a leader in the community, how would you, and each of the candidates is being addressed here, as a leader of the community, how would you bring the community together on divisive issues, knowing not everyone will agree? Bismillah. Brother Ubaid would like to answer that.
As I mentioned in my write-up and in my intro, I feel like some of this has to do with just talking to people, giving them the time. Everyone is entitled to an opinion. It's not about being right or wrong, but making sure that we hear people out. And inshallah, just kind of working. And at the end, when you have reasonable people sitting down looking at something very reasonable, it should work itself out. And I don't mean to say that that's not happening today, but I feel like there's a lot of things that have happened where at some point it's reached a point where maybe a new face is the way to go. Maybe a change is the way to go, which is why there's so many people here running for this position. But inshallah, for all of us here, we're able to do that, and just listen to people, hear them out, and like I said, when it's something practical and tangible, if we can make things happen, we'll make things happen. It's all about working together, inshallah.
All right, Jazakallah khair. Anybody else would like to go? Sister Zeba, you guys can pass it around, please.
So the first principle of strategic negotiation is to agree upon the standard. So if we have an acceptable set of standards when it comes to behavior, when it comes to the common mission of the masjid, when it comes to where finances are allocated, we'll have an easier time uniting people, because Allah says in the Quran to come to terms on what is common. And there's a lot of wisdom in that. Again, that's the foremost principle of strategic negotiations for a reason. So if we can agree on the vision and the mission of the masjid, and we can agree to adhere to the sunnah in our behavior, and in the Quran in our norms, inshallah, we should be able to work it out, so long as there is a unified standard for everybody, inshallah.
All right, Jazakallah khair, well said. Anybody else?
I would like to add a couple of things to what Ubaid said and what Sister Zeba said, is to have a constant meeting with the community and have a transparency between the board members and the community, so that they know what is going on and have less concerns about what is being communicated and what is not being communicated. So that's something that I would like to introduced. So having more interaction and interactive events that can help the community.
Right. Jazakallah khair. Anybody else would like to take that? Okay. I would like to move on to question number 3. If elected, what would your focus be on the first 30, 60, or 90 days? And that sounds like Fox News following first term of presidency. So 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, what would be your first focus?
So I have a focus that I've been working on improving the membership database and system that is in place, which is a manual right now. I'm trying to automate that, and inshallah, that is going to go live starting January. So that is one goal that I have in place. And after that, I'm planning to have more improvements to the same system, which everybody in the community will notice with the emails and notifications that they're going to get.
All right,
And other than that, I have another goal for after that, which I'm trying to initiate, is to, a lot of people in the community has shown their desperation to do the memorization of the Quran, which I'm thinking to initiate with the help of the Quran school, where our Quran teachers can help the community members so that they can feel more engaged in the masjid and memorize and spiritually progress in their life, inshallah.
You're talking about adult memorization, right?
Yes.
Okay. Jazakallah khair. Can you pass this over there? Just if you would like to answer that. Again, the question is, what is your focus in the first 30, 60, and 90 days?
So I forgot to mention that I'm currently the special needs coordinator for the masjid. The things that I would love to get done sooner than 30, 60, or 90 days would be the American Sign Language interpretation of the khutbahs, so that the deaf community in Dallas has somewhere to go to be able to understand the khutbah. The other is to get our doors handicap accessible, because there are brothers in the masjid that have to wait outside the door for somebody to open it. And the sister's door does not have a ramp. And there's a sister who comes in a motorized wheelchair to this masjid every day for the Quran memorization program. So our doors, our masjid is not handicap accessible. Our women's section is not, the bathroom is not handicap accessible. If you come here in a wheelchair and you break your wudu, you're in trouble because you're going home. And the last thing that I would love to be able to do is to have more of our community members take the ASL class, which is already ongoing. We're teaching American Sign Language at the masjid, so that when someone comes in, they are not isolated from the community, even when they're in the community. Jazakallah khair.
Welcome. Anybody else would like to take an opportunity to answer that question?
This question.
Sure.
I'm going to answer this.
Yeah, sure.
I think for next 30, 60, 90 days, for me, is focus on construction. I think we lined up everything with the current board. Alhamdulillah, everything is lined up. Inshallah, January, we'll start the construction. For next 2 years, inshallah, the focus is going to be more on construction. And the Alhamdulillah programs are working, so I think we can continue to increase those. But focus should to build a new masjid as soon as possible.
Okay. Sounds good. All right, so we'll mix it up a little bit. I mean, we were taking questions from the online audience. Would like to pass the mic around first from the sister side. Ladies first. Anybody would like to ask the question? If you can raise your hand, we can bring the mic to you. Anyone? If not, we will go over to the brother side. All right, let's go over to the brother side. Anybody would like to take a question? Ask away. Now's your time. All right, there we go. You got our guy. Jazakallah khair. Right over there. Umar, straight ahead. Run 100 meters. That's a conspiracy. We gave a mic without turning it on. There we go.
Assalamu alaikum. Jazakumullah khairan for the presentation and the well-organized meeting, mashallah. I just have I need to reiterate the same question for the entire panel, inshallah. We know how the volunteer work is very demanding, it's very stressful, and we most of you, mashallah, have been on multiple roles, and I would like to I would like reassurance from every candidate that they will have enough time commitment for this very diverse, evolving, very busy community. So we would have, the right representations that will be able, with their personal life and their work, to be able to serve the community at this very critical stage. Jazakumullah khair.
So basically more like a comment here that everyone who is running for the position does have enough time to serve, right?
Yes.
Okay. Well, you don't have to answer that. I'm sure that you guys have time. Those who are traveling, cut down the travel, please. All right. Anybody else would like to go on the sister side? All right. Sister right in front.
I see predominantly male members here and 2 females. So if we elect an all-member board committee, what steps would the men take to ensure we have female involvement, sisters' involvement in the decision-making process here? What steps would you take? I'd like to ask specifically the men here. And I think I've emailed a question to Brother Shafi. I think you were interested in streamlining the policies and procedures. What steps would you take to make sure we have the wives and the mothers and the daughters also being members of VRIC? Right now, this list is very small. Most homes have only 1 member registered VRIC. We don't have women. What steps will you take?
Okay, so it looks like we have 2 questions in one, right?
Yeah.
If all men panels get selected, how are the men going to make sure that the women involvement is there? That's the first question. Let's take that.
So to answer that question, I would definitely take some help with the members who have been already part of the board, and have a person who is responsible to have a connection with the women's area, who, I mean, the sisters that we are sitting, who are sitting here, who can definitely help us drive that, I think.
Okay, and you want to take the second question, Brother Shafi, about the membership? How are you going to make sure that the memberships are going to spread across all genders? So we have predominantly male members.
Right. So I think for that, I would encourage our the fathers and the husbands over here to have their wives registered as well. And as part of that, I would definitely look into having some, the benefits that will help, and then help the women as well as part of the large membership database that we need to grow from the women's perspective as well. So we'll have some membership drives that will help women join as well as a member of the VRIC.
Okay.
So, sorry. I was going to say, for myself personally and everyone here, we have wives, we have mothers, we have daughters, and obviously we want all of them to be included in anything we can benefit from as well. That's something we would want for our own family, and if that's the case, we would want it for the rest of the families in the community. Some of this has to do, and we can be honest about this, some of this has to do with just the facility itself. When we talk about Jummah, when we talk about Ramadan, mashallah, this year there was a lot of things that were done to accommodate a lot more people. But at some point, a building is a building, a box is a box. It only can fit certain people, a certain amount of people. And I think, inshallah, this is why the focus on the new facility is going to be important, because, inshallah, that will provide a lot more inclusiveness to all segments of our community, inshallah. Going back to the membership thing, just where I came from, where I lived, we had the concept of you could be a member, single member, so male, female, didn't really matter. But there was also family membership, and that made it easy because you got 2 votes, but it was a family membership, it was a higher price. So maybe there's something to be looked at from just how it's modeled currently, to be a little bit more representative across the family as opposed to just a single member versus trying to get 2 people in the family, or your mother or your father. Just do it as a family, inshallah. So something to consider. But good question. Jazakallah khair.
Yeah, it will be a very good question. How, if all the male will elected in the board of directors, how the ladies can participate in that? Normally the procedure is that if the board of director is working, then they are making the subcommittee. For example, the subcommittee for the HIFA school, for the subcommittee for the programs, subcommittee for the construction. But at that time in these committees, you can add the woman member at that time. In that way, the female participation can be done. As concerned about the members, why the ladies were less member as compared about the male, but in the constitution, every person can become member. There is no restriction in the constitution of the VRIC for that. Which person is living in this area, age is more than 18 years, they can become the member. It only we have to need to persuade our every person that they become member. Alhamdulillah, in the constitution of the VRIC, there is a all person have the facility, anybody can become the member for that.
Can I take this? Assalamu alaikum. Hang on, let me turn myself down. So I think the question has a few different aspects. I think to me the most important thing here is welcoming all of our wives, mothers, daughters, sisters to the masjid. I think more than anything else, once women feel like this is their home, like I said before, then they're going to come. The next aspect is really just filling in membership, and that's more about spreading that, as something cool to do, and making sure that people are aware that, membership does have its privileges. But I think the most important thing is making sure that people are welcome. Personally, I'm solving that problem myself, bringing obviously my wife and 5 daughters to the masjid. So the one who is eligible to be a member is a member, mashallah. So and then as the others get older, I'm looking forward to having a whole bunch of members of my own. So inshallah.
All right. Anybody else would like to take that? Okay, let's move on to the next question. What role do you see the youth playing in the masjid? Many members of the youth are not able to vote because of their age or make their voices heard. How will you ensure their involvement? All right, Sister Zeba. Let's do that.
So we have a chronic problem with undervaluing our youth. We want them to be the leaders of tomorrow, but we won't trust them with ownership of more than a stapler. And that's the truth, is that we're not trusting our kids to do what we want them to do independently on their own. So I believe the best way to train youth into leadership positions is to stop relegating them to second-class citizens in the masjid. So you have to welcome children, you have to make children's programs important, you have to bring the youth in and then pair the youth with a committee and give them legit responsibility so that if they succeed, it's their victory. And if they fail, it's the consequence of their failure. But we have to give them the opportunity to take risks within our own community. And that means listening to their crazy, youthful, millennial ideas so that it can actually create programs that they want to attend. So the best way to get youth is to give them a seat at the table, give them a say, and give them responsibility to plan the things that they want to attend.
Well said. Yep.
So I have a very good program that I know it works, a mentorship program where the board member will have a subcommittee where we have a good senior members who can help our youth to mentor in the masjid during the volunteer activities, or I mean as part of the volunteer activities, they can have a junior member under them who can help how they are behaving as part of a volunteer team and then as part of a leadership team or as part of the board. So you can have a mentor and a mentee who can take these young kids and grow them to take their position when you're gone. So, inshallah.
All right.
Alhamdulillah, we already have programs for young Muslims and young Muslim brothers and sisters. I think those are great programs, and they're doing an amazing job, mashallah. So I think we should continue to support them, to utilize the masjid. They are doing independently. There's no liaison. There's no one. They're running by themselves. And that's what we need to support and let them do the things which they want to do. As Sister Zeba mentioned, let them make the leaders. Let them make their own decisions. Alhamdulillah, they are already doing it. Let's continue to support them, inshallah.
take that question? All right. All right, let's go for the next one. How would you focus on security for the community in our current volatile environment?
Waleed is laughing right over there. So I think, alhamdulillah, we have a great safety team. They are trained to take care of the safety of the masjid, and every single night they're outside taking care of the safety of the masjid. Brother Mustafa is part of that team, and I think that's the right way to go. And if needed, in certain scenarios, we always get a police officer or a car standing outside. But alhamdulillah, safety team is doing an amazing job.
Another way to think about that safety issue is as we close the doors and put security guards and police officers outside, we can also help ourselves with safety as we reach out to the outer community at large. A lot of times that can make all the difference when people know you as a person, as a Muslim, instead of just what they see in the headlines. And you have advocates that work with us, and we've seen it on Nextdoor where our neighbors have actually stood up for us when we didn't, and made very positive comments, and that all comes from our relationship with our community at large. So that safety feature, we can improve it by protecting ourselves inward, but we can also portray ourselves outward and just be who we are, very natural dawah. We don't have to really pretend like we're something we're not. If we just be ourselves and smile a little bit more with everyone and invite them to our programs, that will all make us all safer, inshallah.
Sister Sahar brought up a really good point about our outreach, but I wanted to comment on internal security as well. There was a program by the Irving Police where they gave active shooter training in the masjid for our members. What happens in case of emergency if there is an active shooter? What's the protocol? How do you barricade doors? There were so precious few people there, fortunately. There was the Irving Police came and did a self-defense training class for women with 2 women instructors in the masjid for free. And this is normally a paid class. And there were 3 women there who came consistently. There was like 5 on the first day, 3 by the end of it. And I don't know what the issue is, but there are things that the board is doing and needs to continue to do. But there seems to be either low interest or low participation. Whether we feel comfortable about it or whether we think that nothing's going to happen, I don't know. But I guess the first issue would be to raise awareness of the existing things that we have. And then once we actually use those programs to their full benefit, then we see where the gaps are. Because the gaps at the moment exist in terms of member participation, not necessarily in the program's presentation. Jazakallah khair.
Anybody else?
So I myself, as part of the security team, we are trying to get more members of the security team to get armed, and so that we have a armed member sitting outside or standing or making rounds and helping making sure the masjid is secure. And also we are trying to get more members added to our team who can help volunteer and secure the masjid more.
Recently, we upgraded the masjid. Previous board takes the credit for putting cameras everywhere, having live feeds, having a security team. So, alhamdulillah, I think that was a great sort of improvement from where we were before. I think sort of building on that, what you really need is like, some sort of monitoring system, people, service that are really going to watch the masjid on a regular basis and ensure that, people coming in or out are the right people. And that, if anything ever did happen, we'd have, video cameras and stuff like that that we could lean back on to kind of see what happened. But those are all sort of logistical things. I think the most important thing is as Sister Zeba said, education and making sure not just that people are aware of how to protect themselves, but people are aware of how to make our presence in the community even better than it is today. I think the most important thing is that Muslims are viewed for what they really are. Muslims are not threats to the people around them. And so there's this negative presence in the media which is causing the fear, which is causing security issues, and I think we need to address it at the source. And that includes, political participation or, getting to know your local representatives, and, all sorts of things like that. So I think education around sort of those lines is as important, if not more important, than even, training in terms of self-defense and more weapons and stuff like that. That's what I think.
Jazakallah khair. Anybody else would like to take that? Okay. All right. Very interesting question. If not elected, could you make a commitment today to continue to put in the same passion and energy and effort to furthering the vision of this community with the expertise you bring to the table today? All right. Sister Zeba again. We should keep the mic over there by default.
We need 2 mics.
We need 2 mics, yeah, absolutely.
MashaAllah.
If not elected, I will continue making myself a full-time nuisance to the existing board. The previous board can tell you that I emailed them with things like how much do automatic doors cost, why is there no ramp, why is the ramp outside 2 inches lower on one side than the other ramp, when can we schedule an ASL class. Truth is, I would keep doing what I'm doing, but if I got elected, I would be way more effective at it. Jazakallah khair.
So if not elected, I think I'll continue what I'm doing and deliver what I have promised to deliver, inshallah. And I'll be still part of the security team, and I'll be working as usual.
And you said you'll be doing what you're doing, which is, besides the security, you're doing membership. Right?
Membership database, inshallah, that will go live in January.
Okay, all right.
Yep.
If not elected, I used to work before joining the board 2 years before. I was pretty active as a volunteer. I was part of the VRIC programs committee before and Ramadan team. Alhamdulillah, inshallah, if I don't get elected, I'll keep doing the same which I'm doing. This is my passion. I love this masjid. Everybody knows me in the community. I know everyone. So I'll be here, inshallah, if I'm not elected.
All right.
Yeah, I think, to be honest, I think the same goes for most of us. So I probably should just end that question because I have no intention of going anywhere. If I'm elected, inshallah, I'll spend more time here and do more work. If I'm not elected, I'm probably still going to spend more time and do more work. So I don't think that changes.
I guess the question hinted at, what can you do better if you get selected? I mean, it was phrased differently, but if you look at the root idea, what Sister Zeba touched upon, right? You'll be doing the same thing that you're doing right now, but would you be more effective just being in a position of authority and power to make the change happen sooner rather than later? That's probably the point. And I think you're right. Let's
absolutely.
End the question there. Okay, what more can you do to increase your programs in 2018? What more can you do to increase your programs in 2018?
I think that's a question for me. Personally, I feel like we have enough programs in this community. We just need to diversify them. One big gap that we have is, programs for little kids, and that's a huge population of our community. So I think we have a good, in terms of number of events, we have a good number of events going on. It's just the diversity of those events, and I think top pick would be events for little kids.
As Hassan mentioned that we already have so many programs, social programs, mashallah. One thing we are lacking is the educational program in this masjid. And inshallah, I think in terms of training, IT trainings and all those things, we don't have facility here. But inshallah, we should look for those things. And we have so many talent in the masjid who can help us run the IT programs. I think that's something we should look forward to.
As both of the brothers mentioned earlier, we have a lot of programs. As I mentioned, they're not accessible to a lot of people. So simply making our existing programs more accessible will increase the amount of membership. I mean, if the deaf community, and there is a deaf community, knows that there'll be interpretation for a class, you will have the entire deaf community show up because there's no other option. If we follow the Mohsin certification guidelines for events, and we have an orange wristband for people with mobility or enabled in any way, or also people who are very old who can't stand in line, when people know that they'll come to an event and they'll be okay, they'll be taken care of, more people will come to our events. So right now, we've got great events. They're just not accessible to everyone who could be there.
Okay, so it looks like the consensus that we have enough programs, we just have to make them better accessible. Okay.
So one event that I would like to add to VRIC, apart from the social event, the program that will help the community grow spiritually, right? So I'm planning to have a monthly event that will provide education from our great ulamas of North America, the muftis and the alims who are not part of the VRIC, but we can invite them on a monthly basis for next 2 years, inshallah, and then we can have some knowledge that they can share with us, inshallah.
Brother Shakir, you wanted to address something?
As concerned for the program for the 2018, I think the best program we have to develop relation with the Quran. Okay, it is mainly the program which have educational emphasis we have to give it, especially for the adult people. How we can develop relation with the Holy Quran. For that, already we have started the memorization program for the adult in the mosque. Already program is going on, but the strength is very slow. We have to invite the people, participate the people, adult people can join the Hifz program. Also, as concerned about when we are talking about the Quran, we have to learn the Arabic language. Until we don't know the Arabic language, how we can make relation with the Quran? We already started the class in this mosque. We are taking for the last few months. So inshallah, we will invite every person. Every person can join and they can start the Arabic language and learn the Quran. And tomorrow is the class after the Fajr. If any person like to, we don't want up till 2018. We have to start from tomorrow. From tomorrow, every Sunday after Fajr, we are taking the class of the Arabic language. So, mashallah, I will invite all persons tomorrow after Fajr in the classroom. We are taking the class. So please try to start the program from tomorrow, not from 2018.
Okay, so basically 2 things came out. One was the Hifz program, and the other one was the understanding of the Arabic. Inshallah. You want to take some?
Yeah, I just want to add one thing. I think education, especially focused on the deen, would obviously be a great place to focus in terms of improving programs. I just want to also mention that we have 2 great learned shuyukh here in our midst. I'd like to see how much we can take advantage of them. I think they are here for a certain amount of time every week giving classes. As much as we can sort of maximize the time that we have with them or even increase it. That's something that I would be very interested in.
Okay. All right. Anybody else would like to take that question before I go to the next one? All right, Khair. This question is specifically for Brother Shafi. So have you been part of any Hifz program, a Hifz school committee before? That's number one. And have you, what made you think that our current VRIC Hifz school lacks quality? And this is coming straight off your intro, I guess. If you can pass that mic to him, please. So just to be clear, 2 questions. Have you been part of the Hifz school committee before? And what made you think that the current VRIC Hifz school lacks quality?
So I was a part of, coming from Minnesota 3 years ago, I was part of one of the Hifz school named Darul Arqam, where we have introduced, we actually bought a mufti who was helping us with the setting up the Hifz school and setting up some, smart measuring metrics where you get your students' attendance and then you set up the goals and you then make sure their performance and their goals are matching. And if it's not matching, then where is the student lacking, or where is the time that he's spending in the school is not working. So that's an experience that I bring from Minnesota. I was part of the Hifz School Foundation there.
And did you address the second portion of it? What makes you think that VRIC Hifz program lacks quality?
So I don't have the visibility on the Quran school today, but I think we can improve in whatever capacity. I'm sure they're doing very well right now with Muzaffar, who has been, he's coming from Toronto, so I definitely trust him the way he's teaching. He has been the overall administrator at the Darul Uloom Toronto.
So basically, your write-up was basically a general comment that if there is a need,
Yep.
you can
If there
always
is a
improve
need,
it.
definitely
You
we'll.
didn't really find anything obvious that
Yeah.
says here's a lack of quality somewhere. Okay.
No,
Jazakallah khair.
inshallah.
We would like to open up questions for the live audience here. Let me go with the sisters first. If there is any question from the sister side, live questions on the mic. No? Okay. In that case, we'll go to the brother side. Brother Altaf.
Assalamu alaikum. Or I should say assalamu alaikum. My wife will yell at me for mispronouncing once again. I've heard a lot of great stuff from every candidate. However, I was making a roll take of the 3 quietest ones. So I want to ask 3 of the quietest candidates, which happens to be at the very left side of the table, both from Amjad, Hassan, and Shaukat. Not Hassan, excuse me, but Mustafa, thank you. And I'll make a very generic question because I wanted to get to know and hear from you as well, as we all trying to make important decisions. As you guys come to the board and come into a leadership role, what do you fear most that could be impacting our community? What do you fear most? What is impacting our community? And what do you plan to do to alleviate that fear and improve our community?
So, Assalamu alaikum. I'll take the first shot at it. So what I fear the most is the continued division, right? I think that's one thing that we have to address very quickly. It might be just an impression right now that the community is divided, but as other brothers have discussed, right, have stated, we have to take that impression away that their agendas, there are people working on their own agendas. So I think we have to take that away, we have to address that, and we have to bring the community together.
Just to piggyback off of that, I think like you mentioned, it seems like there are 2 sides. I think both sides have to come together and talk over the issues. I mean, we're all here for one goal, right? It's not we all don't have our own agenda. We have one agenda, which is to serve Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we need to come together and go through our issues, in detail, and figure out what those issues are and sit down and solve them in the proper way.
I also agree with both brothers. We just basically need to bring our community together. And I will say building, construction of the new masjid, I think will bring everybody together there, inshallah.
Okay, so the first part of the question was what is the most difficult thing you fear? The second part is how are you going to alleviate that? So you all said bring community together. And is there any tangibles associated with that? How do you bring it together?
Well, and like I mentioned before, I think we just sit down. It's that simple, right? We all hear things, but let's just sit down as a community and go over the issues, point by point. If you don't like me, tell me why you don't like me. Don't tell me because I heard from you, I heard it from you. No. Sit down with the person or with the folks that you do not agree with and go through the issues with them. This hearsay, it's not helpful. Calling names, it's not helpful, one bit. So my main focus would be to sit down and say, okay, why don't you like what's going on? What do you like going on? Why do you not like this? Just go through each person's point.
Also, just to go into the details, right? What I've heard about being transparent. So maybe we'll ask the community what transparency means, right? What do we need for the board to be transparent? Is it just financial transparency, or they want to be involved in each and every decision? That could be like a petty decision as well. So I think we have to open it up to the community and say, what does transparency means, and go from there, discuss with them, and take that whole. I don't think that there are agendas, people working here, but I think that if there's that impression that's out there, we have to take it away.
Brother Mustafa, you want to say anything
No,
else?
I'm good with that now.
Okay.
Can I answer?
Sure.
Sorry, I just had a conversation with one of my neighbors that I think would be relevant here. So I live in Campion House, which is really close to the new masjid, and as anyone else, it's not like we have any more right than others, but as anybody else who lives in this area, we'd want to be able to see the completion of that project. The conversation I had with my neighbor, I was telling him how today we have majority Muslims there, alhamdulillah. My neighbor and I, we share the guy who mows our lawn. When he goes on vacation, he gives me the keys to his house. If there's people coming, I need to let them in, and I do the same on the other side. That's a relationship we had just because we are neighbors, and there are rights of neighbors upon each other as Muslims. If one of us is on the board, and there is this perception today that the board is not being transparent, or they're trying to do something, they have there's this conspiracy theories, they want to do things, that's not what they're telling people, then if you're going to call people a liar, how can we be neighbors? How can I share the guy who mows our lawn? How can I keep his keys? How can he keep my keys? And I think if we just take it down to a very simple level, that a lot of this has to do with just trusting people, sitting down, talking, trusting each other, because inshallah everyone has the same goals in mind. And if we take away all of the things that come on top of it and take away all the hearsay and listen to people, if we can be good neighbors to each other physically, we can be good neighbors to here. When the Prophet ﷺ was talking about the rights of neighbors, he emphasized it so much that people said, we thought we were going to inherit from our neighbors. So if we can take that motivation of what our neighbors are meant to be physically and apply that to this community physically when we see people here, inshallah, we should not have any problems.
I just want to add something. I love what Shaukat and Obed said. There's only one thing I want to add, which is the sort of way to do it. At work, this is something you learn when you're in teams and you're trying to lead projects. You have to build consensus at some point. And there are going to be very divergent opinions, and there are going to be people who want to get very upset and are very emotional about their opinion, but at the same time, everybody agrees, or really needs to agree, that at some point we have to do something, and we have to agree on what that is. And so the fundamental end goal has to be agreement on a particular compromise, and whether that's polarizing issues like do we need a wall between brothers and sisters, or really anything else, the right answer there is to get the people who care, representatives if needed, if you can't get 100 people in a meeting, but walk out with something that you can present to the community and say, yes, everybody's represented and this is what we agreed to. And until you do that, people are just going to be upset with each other.
All right. So I know I'm the moderator, but I'd like to add my opinion to that as well, just because I was part of the membership committee, and the way I see this, divisions starting to happen was a lot of people really want to add their voices, but they really don't have the voting right. So they felt frustrated, they just couldn't make the change. I really encourage every single person who is part of this community, please sign up for membership. If you can vote, you can make the change happen. It's a very simple, general comment. It applies everywhere. So these guys, obviously, they mentioned about the consensus, right? Consensus can only happen if you have the voting right. If you have a large community, but only a subset of the community is voting, you can't really make anything about that. There's a very small subset that does that. So I think these guys have touched upon that. Hassan, want to make a comment there?
Just to kind of reply to Iqbal's comment, I think we have to be very cautious when we do that. When you put it that way, that you don't have the votes, so you don't have a say, too bad, get your votes, get your members. That's not the route you want to go, right? You, as leaders of the community, should be able to gauge the community and get to a consensus. And this option that, this is my agenda and sorry, I have the votes. I don't think that works, because it just polarizes the issue, and it just it just grows the division. And inshallah, I think as every member here, I think that should be our goal, to gauge the community, take the path of least resistance, and this notion of you don't have a representation, I disagree with that. Sorry.
All right, absolutely. Anybody? Okay. All right. Please go ahead.
So one thing I would like to add as a new board, as soon as we start, I would like to send out some surveys on how are we doing every month, so that people can provide their inputs.
Okay.
Inshallah.
Anybody else? Final comments? Okay. Coming to about 9:40 here. Let's take another live question from there. We really want to end up by at max 10 o'clock. It's really getting late. So mashallah, we got a lot of interested population here, so that encourages me to keep going. Bismillah. Again, mic issues. You can just speak up and I can relay.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so Assalamu alaikum. First of all, it's really refreshing to see so many new faces. And not that we're keeping count, but as somebody mentioned, from the last board elections, of the 4 who didn't get nominated or who didn't get elected, we really didn't see them come back in any other capacity. So I know some of you, or pretty much all of you, said that we will continue to work, even if you're not elected. Again, just keep in mind that people are watching. The other question I think really is around volunteers and programs and involvement. I think some of you have touched upon it. But how do you increase the number of volunteers within programs committee? I'm not necessarily just for the barbecue and other things, but there are many other places where we would love to have volunteers, and we've not seen that in the last 2 years. I'll just take an example of even the programs committee. When you have the food, right? Mashallah, you've got more people added, but you still see that same people who've been there for past 7 years in there. So how do you increase the diversity? And I'm just by specifically for you in that area. And for the others, is how do you get more people? And so we've said, like, Al-Maghrib classes happen over the weekend, and you see full class, like, you've got the full audience, full hall with full of people, but when you have Sheikh Yasser's class or Sheikh Umar's class, you don't have that many people around here. So how do you increase that involvement within the community?
I think I'll take the first part, right? So I think the question is mostly like the teams who've been doing the work, they continue to do the work, right? And how we get new volunteers. So I think the word has to get out. And I think we do, in some cases, have the volunteers, but I'm not sure if they feel shut down from some of those areas. But I think we'll probably work with Hasib and our volunteer coordinator to get some of the new faces in those areas. You are absolutely right. Some of those, I can tell you, like during Ramadan, especially during the food prep, in the food prep, it's the same set of volunteers. We will love to get some of the new faces. Now, how to do that, I think we have to rely upon the key strengths that Hasib Bhai has in terms of volunteer management, get the word out, and whoever can help in that time should be able to help.
I think we need to make this our second home. Like I was going back to the point, right? We need to want the volunteers that we want. You want them to feel that they're comfortable volunteering here, that they have a say, and this is their second home. For me, I feel this is my second home. That's why I've started to volunteer so much. I want to volunteer. I want to give back, and plus, I want to show my kids that this is something that you are supposed to do, supposed to volunteer for the community, so that once they grow up, they can say, "Yeah, my Baba volunteered. I'm going to do the same thing." I think just to show in general that, it's that fire has to be there, and maybe just to talk to folks, say, listen, you should volunteer for this reason, because if you need to give back to the community.
Yeah, I think there's just to add, there's certainly a sort of spiritual aspect to it as well. Our Deen encourages, as one of the most important things is service to others, and obviously volunteering is just an aspect. It's a manifestation of that. Volunteering in the masjid allows you to reach a large number of people with whatever actions and time that you're spending. I think getting that concept out there is the most important thing, and then sort of pulling people along. In other words, not just waiting for people to come and volunteer, but to actually reach out to people and say, look, this is a task, a job that has to get done, and you're really good for it. Whether it's like for me, I don't need more than teenagers to do AV work most of the time. So we've got some interns now who are volunteering, and we pulled them in. We said, these are jobs that you can do, and they're super excited about it. I think pretty much every other arena where you need help, you can do that. And I think it's really a matter of building, as Shaukat said, that sort of family bond, but then also pulling people in and saying, yes, you can be part of this family too.
I think it's not just a matter of increasing the number. I think what Shaukat and Tahir mentioned, I think it's the core of it has to be with the connection with the community. I think that's very important. And as a lead of programs committee, I feel when I'm connected to the community, I'm connected to the volunteers, I'm able to gauge them. I'm able to have a productive team. So I think as leads of committees and as leadership from the board, I think it's to connect with people. And once you're connected, then you just feel like this is just something that I do, and it doesn't feel like a task that's been that you've been told to do. So I think it's just that connection is the most important thing.
I think for the last 2 years, I've seen a lot of new volunteers joining Ramadan committee and even the breakfast volunteers, barbecue volunteers. So we do get a lot of new volunteers, but the thing is, as Hassan mentioned, it's the connection. If you are known in the community, people will come and they will volunteer for you. I mean, that's a human nature. So we need the committee leaders who are well connected into community, so they can bring more people. Like Amjad Bhai, as he mentioned, right? The whole crew in kitchen is known and they come because of Amjad Bhai, right? So how do we make those people connected to other people? So when they talk, when they ask, or when they request, they should come. So the connection is the main point. And inshallah, I think we should enable other people when you are doing something so that they can take that connection and relationship and move forward, inshallah.
Just add one more thing. And from I think organization aspect, it's the people just reaching out as well. Just you try to reach out to people, and people just kind of leave you hanging. So it goes two ways for community to kind of lend a hand as needed. I think that would make a best marriage.
Okay. All right. In the interest of time, I would really like to close by 10. So I've got a few important questions that came up. I'd like to move on from that question. The next one is, I think, a very pressing one. Most people would like to hear that. Does anyone in this panel have any construction background? I know where that is going.
I mean, I've managed a few residential construction projects, so I kind of have some experience, but probably not as much as Shaukat.
Yeah, I mean, I've been working in this field for almost 15 years now. So I work for the USDA. In the past, so I do have some construction background. I've dealt with large-scale $100 million contracts from cradle until it was finished. So I do have that background in that aspect.
All right, very nice to hear.
I've been working with construction committee for the last 2 years, so I know what a sharp drawing is. So I know enough.
My husband and I own Moose Construction, and I do and have done all the management contracts and all the back-end stuff. So I am familiar with it to a degree. But what I've learned in the past 2 years on the construction project is that you don't have to be an engineer to be very important on this project. I think the most important thing you need is to know that you don't know and to bring the right people on board and to be a good manager of information, manager of communication of the information to everyone. And I think that's what we lacked in the past. And inshallah, I would like to make sure that that keeps going. It's not how many engineers you have on the board. It's how many open-minded people you have that will ask those professionals to come on board and give you the advice that you need. And you're the kind of person that will listen to that advice and benefit from it.
I've attended a lot of group meetings. I have no construction experience, but I would like to say that the new construction is a building and the community is people. The board's job is not a construction job. We need people with diverse skill sets in managing people, facilities, amenities for spiritual, educational, and social goals. Knowledge of cement and steel is only going to get you so far. We're only going to build a new masjid once, but we're building something that affects tons of people. There are hundreds of people in our community that are not made out of steel.
Anybody else?
If concerned about the new construction project, basically it have two components. One component is managerial. The other component is quality control. If concerned about the quality control, definitely you will hire architect, you will hire the engineer, they will do it. Board job is managerial. It is not a big project. So if the people will manage it, board will only do managerial work for that.
Okay. Anybody else would like to take that? Okay. Next question is, what are your views of having the affiliation of VRIC with any other religious organizations? Can you pass that on? Okay.
You want to say something? Go ahead. Yeah, but say something. I mean, as long as they have the same goals as VRIC, I don't see any issues.
I mean, obviously, increasing cooperation is in the best interest of all parties. I think, as Shaukat said, as long as the goal is aligned, that makes a lot of sense. The question is sort of very open-ended. I mean, I don't know if we're talking about masajid or, sort of human relief organizations, stuff like that. We do, obviously, Helping Hands, for example, does a lot of work here, fundraising. We have a lot of masajid that do come in and do fundraising as well. So VRIC has always been open to allowing people to come in and make pitches and raise funds and talk to people here, and I think that's awesome. I wouldn't change any of that.
If concerned the coordination with the other organization, it is always helpful because VRIC cannot do each and everything by own. If you need any professional help or anything, then you can do it. But it is always helpful, the many activities we can participate with them. Sure.
So I think as I raised my hand, but by the time I got the mic, I think everyone said what I was going to say. One thing I will mention is that brand is important, and so cooperation is always a good thing. Especially cooperation in khair is always going to be even better. So if there are activities, masajids are doing things, we should be able to benefit from and leverage, because it's about building relationships. It's not about us benefiting from them. It's about in the future, the other way around, them benefiting from us in the future. It's something we may need as well. So these things always help as long as we're able to protect the brand, the name, the vision, the mission. Cooperation is something that should be always encouraged. One thing I've noticed in this community is that we have this concept of large custom-built masajid. People live in pockets. Like if I went to pray at the Frisco Masjid, let's say, that would be odd. People would, it would be if I was physically in the area, but we don't typically attend each other's programs. And that's not a good or bad thing. It's just a nature of what it is. Masajid, mashallah, provide all these activities. They provide all these programs. And so for the most part, between where you live and where the masjid is that you attend, you don't really need to go anywhere. So we don't need to necessarily change that. But cooperating on activities helps people move around, meet more people, and build more relationships, inshallah, because we can always learn from others.
I think the question was very, very open. It didn't really specify if the religious organizations are Muslim or non-Muslim. So you all have touched that on the Muslim part of it, right? We all agree on that. Can someone want to touch the non-Muslim?
Yeah, well, so I work with Farooq on the outreach committee, and actually I was going to say when the question about security came up, we did coffee with friends, and subhanAllah, the first people who showed up were like 10 cops. And it was very cliche because there was donuts and coffee, and cops showed up. But alhamdulillah, it was an amazing experience to be able to stand with these guys completely armed all the way. And they had their sergeant, and they had like everyone from their office show up, and we met with them and we talked with them. And one of the motivations of doing that event was actually because some other organization had done something with called Coffee with Cops or something similar. So we want to learn from these things, and we want to be able to do our own, but also partner. We're actually having an event as part of the outreach committee next week with an organization called Plexus, which works with new Muslims. And so that's a partnership thing. We basically said, instead of us building this database, going around looking for new Muslims, why don't we actually work with people who are already connected to new Muslims, offer them what we can, so that they can benefit from what we have and we can benefit from them, inshallah.
Okay, so basically a lot of collaboration is required. Sister Zeba. Let's take that question quickly. I got 3 more questions, about 5 minutes left. We'll come to you. We'll come to you, definitely. Absolutely.
Omar Suleiman, Sheikh Omar Suleiman has touched on this multiple times about working with faith groups and political groups with whom you do not have complete alignment. It is not required that you have complete alignment with these people that you partner with, except in your objective. We can work with a Christian group to clean up the highway because we both agree on the highway, even though we don't agree on the aqidah per se. As long as the vision aligns with what is halal, we can work on that goal specifically, and we can benefit from the expertise and enrich our own community in that respect.
Okay. Sister, you wanted to ask a question? The mic is right here.
Our shuyukhs are a valuable asset to our community. I would like to know, what would you do to retain them at VRIC? And your silence would indicate that you will do nothing. Okay? So I would like to hear from each one of you, what would you do to keep them? Can I ask? No, it's just a simple, it's a simple question, a simple answer.
So one simple way of, it's not an answer to your question, but first of all, I just want to say it's almost 10 o'clock. I appreciate everyone who's here. I know you were already going to say this, but Jazakallah khair for being here, listening to us. But you mentioned a question that I think is best answered not by this group, but if we could do a show of hands for the people that are sitting across this table, how many of you are here because not just for the shuyukh, but you are here and you want to stay here because of the shuyukh that we have with Sheikh Omar and Sheikh Yasir Burgess? So just a show of hands, right? And I think, so if you can't see each other, but a simple show of hands tells you the value of the shuyukh from not just us, the community itself. And if that's what the community thinks, it's an amana on us to be able to make sure we do that and we keep it and we basically protect that. At the end of the day, there are 2 individuals. The board is the board. There are 3 different entities. We need to make things work, and everyone has the right. You know, it's up to them to do what they want. It's up to us. But I think we have to protect what the vision of the community is, because this is why people are here.
Mr. Sar.
I started this thing a couple of years ago, and I still do it on a regular basis. When I see the shuyukh, I don't do what everybody else usually does, ask him questions and fatwas and things. I ask him, how are you doing? How are you really doing? What kind of programs do you want to be doing? This is how the parenting workshop started with Sheikh Yasir. I asked him, you know, what would you like to see? What would you love doing a program in that you don't see here at VRIC? We started talking about parenting workshops. Now he's doing VRIC parenting workshops all over the country. My only thing is I tell him you have to use the VRIC parenting workshop name. But alhamdulillah, I mean, we need to keep them engaged. They're such big figures, mashallah. May Allah keep them humble and as good as they are right now, inshallah. But we need to unleash them. We need to give them opportunities to do what they have passion in, because you always achieve the most when you do the things that you really care about and that you really love. So just keep really good communication with the shuyukh, as I think we've been doing, and ask them what they love. Sheikh Omar, of course, is very involved with social justice. We host those kinds of sessions here for him so he can indulge in that he has passion for, and we support them in those endeavors, and I think it makes us all better when we have such passionate shuyukh.
That's 22 already.
Of course, I've been with Sheikh Yasir.
Go all the way up, man.
So just to answer your question, any programs we do, me and Hassan, we always go back to Sheikh Yasir. Is he available or not, right? That's the one thing. And he's always available. And this guy, Sheikh Yasir, I mean, for barbecue, he shows up at 12 o'clock. He looks at us. Is everything okay? Yes, everything is good. He stays till 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. till we wrap up everything. And a cowboy hat. So I mean, that shows that we love him and we need him, inshallah.
I think regardless of who gets on the board or not, there's been a culture of bad manners in the masjid at times, in the meetings with people saying impolite things and accusing each other of conspiracies and making it a toxic place for our shuyukh to work, as well as a toxic place, and people do not want to attend the meetings because it's embarrassing to watch other people yell at each other. So regardless of who gets on the board or not, we need to change the culture of disrespect. Nobody wants to work in a toxic environment. If we want to keep our shuyukh, we make it a good workplace for them.
All right. Okay, we're coming to the top of the hour. I think I had 2 more questions, but I'm going to skip one and just basically stick to the last one. This is the last question for everybody. The question is, there is a void of a youth coordinator in our masjid. Most of our youth do not want to come. What is your opinion?
I think, as I mentioned before, that there's a YM girls and YM boys, and they are doing what they are supposed to do. So, I mean, I'm not sure, do we even need a youth coordinator?
Okay.
We also have MCNA, which is for the younger kids, so they can learn from MCNA. We have a Girl Scout. So, alhamdulillah, I think with YM, I think they're self-independent. They can do their own things. So, I'm not sure if we need any youth coordinator or not at this point.
The question was, there is a void of a youth coordinator in our masjid. Most of the youth do not want to come. What is their opinion?
So I was going to say there's a perception that comes with having a full-time youth coordinator in the masjid. And that perception has value. Because whether the work is being done through other avenues, through collaboration, through partnerships, there is still some value to the perception of having a full-time dedicated youth coordinator because it shows intent. And I'm not saying it's a make it or break it deal because you have to prioritize it with everything else that's going on as well. So I would assume with what was said that in the current list of prioritization, based on everything else that's going on with the bandwidth we have, with the budgets that we have, it is where it is. If given the capacity, the budget, the opportunity, I think it's a great idea to show even just intent, because intent leads to many things. And I think if that's something that we could do, we should consider doing it. I don't know the details of where we are today with all of those aspects, but that perception is valuable, not just to the people internally, to the people externally as well, to the people in the community, and obviously it will always help.
Okay, in the interest of time, pass the mic around.
Yeah,
Please. Jazakallah khair.
I just want to add one thing. I think the question stated something, which I think there's sort of some debate about. I think there's another aspect of it, which is finding the right person. So in some ways, you create jobs for people when you find them. So if you find somebody who you think, this person's awesome, and we just really need this guy, or gal, and they're just perfect as a youth coordinator, then you end up making a spot for them somehow. But I think to some extent, creating a spot and trying to find somebody may be sort of backwards.
So what I think is the youth coordinator needs to come from the youth, and it doesn't need to be an adult. I think masjid is a safe environment, and kids need to be left unsupervised in that same safe environment. I don't think there needs to be like an adult youth coordinator. If the youth coordinator could come from the youth themselves, that would be the best.
Okay. Anybody else? Actually, Shuzaiba, I'll take that question quickly. I have one more question to go for, and that will be the last one. Sorry, I promised 10 o'clock, but... Oh, okay. All right. Hold on. So when I take that question, you have the mic? Right over there.
I think we do need youth coordinators just so that the different programs can be connected to each other, so that there's a central place so that people know what's going on. Because there's a lot happening, but they're not collaborating with each other.
Can you just... All right, so let's take that question, and hopefully that'll be the last one.
Assalamu alaikum. Actually, it's not really a question, it's more a comment, because I do feel we have a youth program currently, the YM program, and I do feel like the coordinators, the youth that are leading that program are doing an amazing job. So I'd just like to add that comment. Jazakallah khair.
You're welcome. Okay. All right. Sorry, I keep lying about that. Since we have one more question, I just want to take it. Do any of you travel weekly for work? If so, how will your weekly travel impact your ability to serve? The current estimate is that a position of the BOD is about 10 to 15 hours commitment at a minimum. So those are who are the guys, first of all, raise your hand, who travel weekly? Anybody else besides Brother Shafi? Okay, so that's only one? All right, bismillah.
So I do travel weekly, sometimes Monday night or Monday morning, so or Tuesday to Thursday. And the way I do is after I reach the hotel, I have time to concentrate on things that I want to do. So that's a time I can work with the masjid people remotely for those 3 days, and then over the weekends I'm available.
Okay, all right, with that, I know the questions keep coming, but we got to call it off at some point in time. If you guys have more questions, you guys are welcome to send emails to the nominees. Inshallah, we still have a few days left. If you guys want to clarify a few things, go ahead and email them. Just don't bombard too much. All right, Jazakallah khair. It's 10 minutes past 10. Thank you very much for staying that late and showing interest. We'll all see you, inshallah, on December 14th.